Hi, welcome to my channel. My name is Anne and today I'm going to talk about audiobooks. Audiobooks are a topic of much debate within the bookish community. Some people love them and really get a lot of reading done through them, and other people don't like them and just read physical books. And then there are the people who say that listening to an audiobook isn't real reading, that it's an easy way out and that it shouldn't count as having read a book. Well, let me tell you, if you're one of those people, you're wrong. When you're listening to an audiobook, you're still experiencing the story, you're just using a different sense to experience it with. And then there's the whole ableist aspect. By dismissing listening to audiobooks as not reading, you're basically dismissing an entire demographic of readers who aren't able to read with their eyes or aren't able to read well with their eyes and are using audiobooks to still enjoy their hobby of reading. Anyway, I think it's pretty clear where I stand on audiobooks. I like them, but I didn't always, and I'm still not the biggest audiobook reader out there. But I do think they can be really wonderful and a great way to get more reading done and to experience a story in a different way. And sometimes the narration can even really add to a story. I used to just listen to the Harry Potter books narrated by Stephen Fry once in a while because I had those files on my iPod, but it took me months to get through one book because I didn't listen to it very frequently. But then at the end of 2017, I think it was, I got a subscription to a Dutch audiobook app called Storytel for the Dutchies out there. And that's when my love affair with audiobooks really started. The first book I listened to that was not Harry Potter was The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue by Mackenzie Lee. And I have to admit that listening to a story that I didn't already know did take some getting used to at first. I sometimes had difficulty keeping my attention with the story and I really didn't want to miss out on anything. I didn't want to miss a single sentence because of my mind wandering. But I guess you can train that though, because now I'm a lot better with that. I'm still not a quick listener. It often takes me a few weeks to get through one book because I don't really listen to big chunks of the story at a time. Except when I have a lot of time to listen or time to kill because I'm on public transport, for example. I don't listen everywhere and anywhere though. I'm not one of those people who can listen to an audiobook while performing tasks that need proper attention. I know there are people who listen to audiobooks while they're working on the computer and I really admire that, but I can't do that because when I do that, the text on the computer screen distracts me from the story that's going on in my headphones. And then before I know it, I've lost the thread of the story and I have to rewind to get back in the story and listen what I've missed. And I do want to experience the entire story because I don't want to miss anything. So that leaves the question, when do I listen to audiobooks? I do like to listen to an audiobook when I'm going for a walk, which is something I want to do a little more often because of exercise and all that. But I also listen when I'm cooking or cleaning or doing things like folding and putting away laundry. And by doing that, I'm killing two birds with one stone because I'm getting more reading done, but I'm also doing a useful task. Plus, it makes the useful task a lot more fun. And that's been really helpful for me because I don't really like doing those household chores, but by listening to an audiobook at the same time, I'm enjoying myself nonetheless. I'm not very good at just sitting down and listening to an audiobook while not doing anything else though, because I often get bored when I do that or my mind starts to wander or I get impatient and start doing other things anyway. The only times when I do that is when I'm nearly done with the story and I want to get to the end. So if you're looking to start listening to audiobooks but you're not really sure how to go about it, I'd say 1. Start by listening to books you've already read, like I did with Harry Potter, because that way you can enjoy a reread and you don't have to worry about missing anything and you can get used to listening to a story. And 2, listen to audiobooks while doing menial tasks like folding the laundry or cleaning, because that way you're killing two birds with one stone and you're making things more fun for yourself and you're getting more reading done. So now that you know my take on audiobooks, I would like to give you a few recommendations of some of my favorite audiobooks. And this is partly based on story, but it's mostly to do with the narration. Because I think a narrator and the way they narrate can really make or break a story. The right or wrong narrator can definitely make a lot of difference. I also wonder sometimes if I've ever rated a book higher or lower because of a narrator. And if I'd have rated it differently if I'd read the physical book. But I guess we'll never know. Anyway, here are 4 of my favorite audiobooks in no particular order. First up we have Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine by Gil Honeyman, narrated by Kathleen McCarran. This book centers around 29-year-old Eleanor. She is very lonely and has little to no social skills. She always says what she thinks, and most people think she's weird or that there's something wrong with her. Her life is completely timetabled, from work to what and when she eats to the 2 bottles of vodka she drinks every weekend. Eleanor knows how to survive, but she doesn't know how to live. But that slowly starts to change when she meets Raymond, who is one of her co-workers. Now, don't be fooled, this is a pretty dark story. It deals with child abuse and trauma, among other things, but I thought it was a very good book and it really moved me. What made it even better was the narration. The story is set in Scotland, and so the narrator speaks with this wonderful, delicious Scottish accent, but not so Scottish that is incomprehensible. I had such a good time listening to this book, and I actually think I might have liked it a little less if I'd read the physical book, but of course there's no way to know that for sure. My next recommendation is The Traveling Cat Chronicles by Hiro Arikawa, and I also talked about this in my July wrap-up recently, so I'll link that up above or down below as well if you'd like to know more about my thoughts about this book. This is a book about a cat and his owner, and large parts of the story are told by the cat. And this narrator, who's called George Blackton, by the way, I forgot to mention that, does the perfect cat voice. He manages to convey this cat perfectly by having this sarcastic, slightly denigrating and cocky voice, and it just had me grin through large parts of the story. The parts that weren't told through the cat's perspective were really good as well, but what sold me was definitely the cat's voice. Next up is They Both Die at the End by Adam Silvera, narrated by Bani Turpin, Michael Crouch and Robbie Damon. This is a YA book about death, basically. The premise is that in this society you get a call on the day that you're going to die. That way you can make the proper arrangements, I guess, and say goodbye to your family and friends and other loved ones, and you can do some of the things that you'd always want to do but figured you'd have enough time for. I think this sounds a lot better than it is. This entire society is built around this death day. There are sort of theme park kind of things you can go to if it is your death day, and there are all kinds of other things you can do, like virtual reality skydiving, just to experience skydiving if that was one of the things you wanted to do before you died. Anyway, the 2 main characters are Rufus and Matteo, who are both teenagers, and they both get the call that they're going to die. And they meet somehow and they spend their last day together. I should also say that this is an LGBT+ story. This is the first audiobook that I listened to that had more than one narrator, and I really enjoyed that because that way the 2 different main characters really got their own voice. I was also completely swept off my feet by this story and the narrators, and I really connected to the characters and cared for them. So I definitely recommend this one. The last audiobook I'm going to recommend is Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid, narrated by a whole bunch of different people. This book is narrated by an entire cast of voice actors and it is magnificent. If you spend more time on BookTube, you will probably have heard of this book before, either on my channel or on the rest of BookTube, because everybody has been talking about this book and has been loving it. The story is about a fictional band that was huge in the 70s, but that split up after only one tour and album, and nobody really knows why they did that. This book, which consists completely out of interviews, sheds light on why this band broke up and everything that led to that breakup, and about how the band came together, what the history and the story of these people is. I've never read or listened to anything like this before, and of course the book exists on paper as well, but I'm really glad I listened to the audiobook. It was such an experience. The voice actors are great and I was really drawn into this story. I haven't been drawn into a story like this in such a long time. I do want to read the physical book as well at some point because I think it will be a completely different experience and I'd like to experience the story again. But I definitely recommend listening to the audiobook if you have the opportunity to do so. And that's it for this audiobook video. Please let me know down below if you like to listen to audiobooks and what your favorite audiobook is. And please like this video if you liked it and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more of me. Thanks so much for watching and have a wonderful day. Bye!